if you want to derive benefit from the teachings of the Buddha. Now I tell you, there are many things, for example, as I gave you one example, Ubbe Hanati Atanu. So for example, he says that desire causes suffering. Now what is desire? Desire is a kind of defilement of mind. Now what happens when desire arises in you? Yam rupam, piya rupam, sato rupam, tat tanha, upajyamana, upajyati, a beautiful line in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. How tanha arises in you. And unless you know how desire arises in you, you cannot get rid of it. So by practicing vipassana, you can see how tanha arises, how any defilement of mind arises. And for this, if you want to practice vipassana, you have to be a virtuous person. Why a virtuous person? Because you know a virtuous man can control his mind. If you are not a virtuous person, your mind cannot be controlled because your mind is under the influence of different kinds of defilements like anger, like hatred, or like greed, for example. Greed is the most important defilement, which has been said by the Buddha in the Aganya Sutra. If you read the Aganya Sutra in the Dignigar, he says that the most important the greatest defilement in your life is greed. From greed, everything emerges. So you have to avoid, if you can understand these things, and you cannot understand these things by reading books. I tried in the beginning of my life to understand these things, and I taught Buddhist literature for quite a long time. But unless I practiced vipassana, I could not put my finger on how to understand what is contained in the teachings of the Buddha. So the practice of vipassana will open your eyes. It was just like a sort of eureka for me, when I just could understand the meaning of sati and sampradanya. It was just like a eureka for me when I could see how anger arises in me and how I can control it. I don't claim that I never become angry. I do become angry. But anger cannot overpower me. I can overpower anger. This is the greatest thing that I have learned from vipassana. So instead of talking different kinds of philosophy, I will invite all of you, if you have time, to practice vipassana. And that will help you not only to control your defilements, to get rid of your defilements, but also to understand Pali literature. This Pali literature is a different kind of literature. It's not imaginative literature. It's definitely based on Panya. Panya means direct experience of the Buddha. So this direct, you cannot understand it unless you have some kind of direct experience. It's not reflective. That is why Buddha, instead of talking philosophy like just philosophers like Leibniz and Kant and other philosophers, he was a pragmatic philosopher and he taught just that because he saw the problem in suffering and how to get rid of suffering. The problem was there, the problem of anger was there in me, and I got rid of the problem of anger. I could see how anger arises, why does it arise, and therefore I am able to control it. This is the way you can get rid of different kinds of things, and ultimately you will be able to get rid of suffering also. So this is the beauty of practicing vipassana. Vipassana actually was a great discovery of the Buddha. People used to practice what is called samatha type of vipassana. You could control your mind. But with the mind control, how could you see what is happening within you? What is happening within you could be seen only by practicing vipassana. And as it is beautifully said in the Ratana Sutta, that you can Pubbe, as I told you, Pubbe Hanatiyatana, but here it is something else. For example, he says that you can, no outside object will create any kind of desire in you. But if you practice vipassana, then what is happening inside? All the time we are creating desires, different kinds of desires. Our unconscious mind is doing that. But if you are able to see that, that desire will be stopped. That unconscious mind also will not be able to create desire in you. So if you want to really get rid of desire, then you have to practice that. So I think instead of beating about it and telling you more about it, because I cannot share my experiences with you. I can share my experiences only with those who have practiced Vipassana. I can tell you a lot, I can tell you my experiences of it, but you will not be able to appreciate my experiences unless you have practiced it. This is the difference. You can talk about philosophy, others also can talk about that philosophy, but this is the kind of thing which cannot be talked about much more. It can be released, it can be experienced, it can be internalized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Anurag Chaudhary. You have very beautifully brought out the importance of Vipassana. In the modern age, we are all suffering from anger, hatred, jealousy, and the way in which it can be controlled without going into long theory. Thank you very much. Now, I request Professor K. Ram Subramaniam. He is a wonderful scholar, an ideal synthesis of science and religion. He is in the IIT cell of technology in Bombay, and he has a PhD in theoretical physics, and still he has undergone a rigorous course in Advaita Vedanta. He has done 14-semester program for successful completion. He was given the coveted title of Vidut Prabhat by Shankaracharya of Sringeri. So here we find a very important scholar who is both in science as well as religion. Thank you. Please confine your talk to 15 minutes.
Namaskar. So the title was suggested to me for Indian paradigm for a new world order. It is quite an interesting title, and I was quite happy when I first came to know about this conference. In fact, the greatest proclamation that we have in the Vedic literature is Dharmo Vishwasya Jagatah Pratishtha Loke Dharmishtham Praja Upasarpanti Dharmena Papa Mapanudati Dharme Sarvam Pratishthitam Tasmat Dharmam Paramam Padanti. So one can elaborate on it at great length. The same thing has been stated in Ramayana, in Mahabharata, in different terms. Dharma Dharthascha Kamascha Sakimartham Nasevyate is the statement that we find here. Dharmartha Kama Kila Jivaloke Samikshita Dharma Pallodayeshu Yedatra Sarvesya Asannehitaha Dharmo Yadasya Tadupa Praveta is the ultimate proclamation that Rama gives. I will elaborate on these things. But I just want to tell you that the paradigm that we have is, if at all there is a conflict between dharma and artha and kama, one has to choose dharma and not artha and kama at the cost of dharma. This is the greatest message that has been stated in Veda. It has been elaborated greatly in Ramayana as well as Mahabharata, in Bhagavad Gita. If one were to state the essence of Bhagavad Gita, the first and the last word in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Kshetre Madhyam Mama, that is enough. So that speaks to the entire message of Bhagavad Gita. And I wanted to particularly highlight one aspect where there could be a sort of confusion. When we speak of Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, of all Dharma, Ahimsa is the greatest Dharma, and then where is the need for war? This could be a question. And in fact, Mahabharata was a war, Kalika was a war, and we have various kinds of wars that have been happening. And in fact, Krishna saw it that Arjuna goes for a fight and so many people are finished. When I thought of the great philosophers, thinkers it occurred to me that there are three great strategies. Long back there was Krishna, so let us say 3000 years back at the Mahabharata. Then we had Chanakya around 350 BCE. Then recently we had Mahatma Gandhi. All of them basically have been great strategies beyond thinkers and philosophers. One common thing is all of them wage war, different kinds of war. So Krishna saw it that the war was happening and there was victory. But this war is different from the other kinds of war. There are three types of vijaya that one can think of. One is dharma vijaya, the other is lobha vijaya, the other is adharma vijaya, so or asura vijaya one can call it. All three wars ended in dharma vijaya, I would say. So dharma yuddha, and of course there are hundreds of killings that last century and we had millions and millions so who were slaughtered, and one cannot even think of this. In fact, when some of these Westerners arrived and they looked at the kind of discipline that was there in the battle, they were simply astonished. One cannot treat someone who does not have an astra. One cannot treat someone who is not in the same plane. If he is in Ratha, he has to be in Ratha, otherwise one cannot hit. On the other hand, the kind of war, the kind of killing that took place elsewhere is completely asura vijaya. So completely asura vijaya, and what we had is dharma vijaya, and there is one thing which one has to keep in mind, and there is an interesting thing which one finds in Bhagavad Gita. Towards the end, Krishna says, Itite jnanamakshatam dukhya dukhyataram maya vimrishchit raseshena yatechasi tathakuri. Yatechasi tathakuri, you do whatever you like, whatever you choose. But please think about what I had stated to you. Itite jnanamakshatam, I have explained what I consider as wise to you, and it is up to you. This he goes and does toward the end. We can ask this question, why does Krishna tell it towards the end of Bhagavad Gita after having bored Arjuna with 18 chapters? He would have just said at the beginning, so I take this Tathagata. The message is, freedom can be given, choice can be given, but not to ignorant, but not to confused minds. Today, we are facing a very serious crisis about this confusion. What to adopt, what not to adopt. So the message, what I want to convey here is, this confused and immature mind can never be given freedom. What Krishna did was to demolish this confusion which was in Arjuna's mind at the moment. This was demolished and this choice was given. He says, then he raises his voice. So this has to be understood. This ahimsa at ultimate level, so this is a great dharma conflict which happened, and the dharma conflict, waging war is dharma, was declared there. Ahimsa paramo dharma is not going to work there. If at all one has to say this ahimsa, that ahimsa is at a different level. So it was for the Satya Pratishtha that the whole thing was happening, and the Satya is something which cannot be compromised at any cost. The entire story of Ramayana, the entire story of Mahabharata, having given a word, if you are not going to stick to your word, then it is the only way that we can establish Dharma, that is the entire message. So there cannot be confusion between ahimsa. In fact, even in this program, too, over then, there are a lot of people who are saying, the entire world was saying, this land of Gandhi and Buddha, how can it afford to have program? So one has to understand this very clearly. One should not simply get confused. And one more interesting thing which I want to say about this, I told you about Krishna, and of course, if possible, I will touch upon about Gandhi also. The another interesting character which I want to say is Chanakya. We all know Chanakya has spent two interesting works, Arthashastra and Chanakya Niti. Arthashastra is primarily based on economics, and Chanakya Niti was on worldly wisdom. One interesting fact about this is, his work almost became extinct for about 15 centuries in our land. Why? Because Chanakya advocated Loka Vijaya. He established his Mauryan empire, but it was through annexation. So it was annexation, I mean, he just recommended annexation and they see the greatness of Indians. They felt that this is Adharma. No way it is Asura Vijaya, but the issue is, even this was not acceptable and they felt that this work had to be abandoned. And of course, fortunately, we had one copy in Mysore. It is a different thing. And upholding this dharma is what I want to say. If it were done, it could have been done out of Kama, but Kama cannot at any point of time suppress dharma and one can go. So the entire thing, when something was given to you, by the person who was supposed to receive, Rama did not receive. I mean, one can elaborate on all this. I mean, such kinds of amazing characters, nowhere we will find in this world. Come what may, I am not going to swerve a bit from the path of dharma, and that is what one needs to understand. The problem of modern civilization, as it was pointed out yesterday by various people, is consumerism, earn more, spend more here. And this has led us to endless problems, let me tell you. This consumerism has led us to endless problems. We are facing a very serious crisis of different kinds of environmental issues. All of them can be pegged down to this. On the other hand, let me tell you, this conservation, spend less for yourself, give more for charity, this has been the underlying principle, and today we have forgotten that. I remember my own grandfather, for 5 paise, I mean, he will make people walk 5 kilometers, but he will be sharing 500 rupees so easily for a particular cause. I mean, that is the kind of principle on which we live. Be conservative, be saving, but share it with the other, share it with other people, and it is only by sharing that one shows that one is caring. Caring is dharma. Caring for every being around you is dharma. You cannot make a distinction that I am a human being and I am entitled to enjoy this entire universe for my own comfort, come what may the outcome. So this is not something which is acceptable to dharma. And you, all of us, including this computer, including this microphone, including this chair, including this camera, including all flowers, everything is manifestation of one divine being. This is the fundamental principle that has been taught to us, and this is what has been proclaimed in all kinds of literature. Atmo Punya Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Yojana Sukham Va. Sarvatra include all beings sentient, insentient. That is the underlying principle. In fact, Samam Pashyati Yojana yesterday, when Mahamudra Shastri was talking here, he was trying to bring out the relation between this yoga and adhyatma. So this Atmopamyena Sarvatra Samam Pashyati Yojana Sukham Va Yediva Dukham Sayogi Paramo Mataha. So this dharma, ultimately it goes to that. Sayogi Paramo Mataha, the one who has this kind of a vision. So, and this is the vision that we need today. We have to care for trees. We have been completely violating this. Nature was considered to be brute. Nature was considered to be inert. And here there is no way that we can consider. At no point of time have our authors, in any literature for that matter, starting from Kavya, so we have the highest philosophy, Vedanta, you will find the underlying principle that it is the manifestation of one divine being. Once it is there, this Atmopamyena, there is no need for anybody to be taught to care for oneself. But the problem is in confining oneself either to this body, and this is what is cropping up today. Not even family. At the exclusion of wife, children, people have gone too selfish. And in fact, I can go to hundreds of examples. Most of you will know